Reading from the Madhya-lila, chapter 8, text 251. If you get me some, tissues there and napkins, you can put them right here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śreyo-madhye kona jīvera haya kṛṣṇa-bhakta-saṅga vinā nāhi. Then Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu asked, out of all auspicious and beneficial activities, which is best for the living entity? Rāmānanda replied, the only auspicious activity is association with the devotees of Krishna. According to Śrīmad Bhagavatam 11:230, Atta adyatikam sheman prichami bhavato nagha samsare smin shanardhopi satsanga sevadir nidam. We're asking you to tell us what is the most perfect welfare activity. I think that in this material world, association with devotees, even for a moment, is the greatest treasure for mankind. Om Agana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmulatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Śrī Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, greetings from Govardhan. I'm so fortunate to be in this very spiritual place and being gifted a nice ashram that has all facilities I need to chant and remember Krishna. So we're studying Rāmānanda Samvad, and we're up to a point where Rāmānanda Rāya and Lord Chaitanya, they just can't get enough of each other. They're about to leave, and then Rāmānanda Rāya says, please spend 10 more days. And Lord Chaitanya says, well, why 10 more days? You spend the rest of your life with me in Puri. And that's actually what happened. They had the realization. You can't do these things with realization. You can't renounce without realization. But he really had the realization, the trust, the experience that there's nothing greater than the association of devotees who are advanced, like-minded, and affectionate. And we just see that kind of energy because it's love of Krishna, love of devotees is love of Krishna. In the very beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when it describes the primary, the Sarup Lakshanam, the prime characteristics of pure devotional service, it says, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Anukulyena, favorable activities, a mood to please. Anukulyena Krishnanu, to Krishna. And it makes it clear that Krishna includes his devotees and his differentiated energies. Loving the devotees is loving Krishna. And we feel that same energy. Our goal is to feel that energy of love between that and which we have a relationship with. And Krishna is the best object of love because it's eternal and it's real and it's most dear. And these Rasa Shastras where these relationships are described, they're meant to attract us to them and attract us to this activity as the goal of life. Prabhupada said we advance by appreciation, because that which you appreciate is that which you gradually become. So it's so important to have the right appreciation. A proper society is very much based on exemplars, people who exemplify the qualities that the society wants the people to move. I just began writing my next Monday morning greetings. And Monday morning greetings, it's whatever thought comes into my mind. I have to write about it. I don't have much choice. So I started thinking about the World Cup, because the World Cup is going on now, the big soccer tournament. I was a player myself. And I started to analyze sports. God, that's what I do. From the eyes of Shastra, I began to analyze sports. I'll see where it goes. I'm working on it now. But, one thing, I was making a point, it may not be the highest activity, but for children, it's a basically healthy use of their passion. When in the modern society, there's so many unhealthy excitements to degrade the mind. So just see a society, how degraded it is, where it's putting forth the wrong people to inspire others to follow. That's why there was sannyas in society, because the top of society was the renunciate. Because a proper society may fulfill their desires, but move towards renunciation. So you have to have on the top of a proper society those who are legitimately renounced. It's really the main duty of the sannyas ashram to exemplify renunciation. When I took sannyas from His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj 40 years ago, and he was telling about his sannyas, And what Prabhupada say, he should be happy in his renunciation. Sannyas that's what, that's in India, in America, you want to be a movie star. In India, you want to be a guru. You want to be a sadhu. So society should move towards that kind of renunciation. And hopefully real renunciation is devotion. Anyway, in this discussion, they're relishing each other's association. They don't want to leave. And Krishna is empowering that association. Shrinvita swakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, hidyantasto vidanoti saritsatam. He's pleased with those who gather together, machita matkata prana, bodhiyantas parasparam, who machita, their consciousness, matkata, their goal, machita matkata prana, their very life, their very food. Bodhiyantas is enlightening one another in Krishna consciousness. So they continue to stay. And we've seen they're asking various questions of each other. It's gone to the highest point because he asked to recite a verse that shows the ultimate goal of life. And it was this total absorption between Radha and Krishna to the extent that they were not even cognizant of who they are, to the sense that in devotion, they practically melted in devotion. But they keep on discussing. And then in the verses that we're discussing here, Lord Chaitanya is just asking about various aspects of life. And the answer is always Krishna's pastimes, association with devotees. Panch Anga Bhakti, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, after they list the 64 items of devotional service, they list 5 that are very accessible, but most powerful. And it's described that even a neophyte, means one who doesn't have devotion, can experience Baba by these 5 items of chanting the holy name, if they're done with a simple heart, without offense. Chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, hearing the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, worshiping the deity, and residing or visiting the holy places, that even a neophyte can get the highest devotion. If he performs these items simply. And we know that Srila Prabhupada kind of very beautifully based his whole movement on these activities. And if we're intelligent, we will make these activities more and more of our lives, because the goal is prema pumarta mahan. Mahan means great. Artha means value. Prema, pumarta. The greatest value is prema. The greatest value is prema because it's the essence of pleasure, is love. So our objective is happiness, and happiness is love. So our objective is love. And everything we do is a means to achieve that. And that's what's auspicious. There's nothing else that's auspicious than love, pure love, prema, and those activities which support your pursuit of it. And from the perspective of an advanced devotee, he sees very clearly the goal. And he sees everything in relationship to the goal. And he himself or herself is completely focused on it exclusively. Prabhupada gives credit to his one-pointed determination to come to the West. There's a wonderful book that I'm reading now. I have an assistant read, and we read it. We read it actually tonight for an hour before. Practically, you can't put it down. It's called What's So Special About Srila Prabhupada? And the very interesting thing about the book, there's no author listed. It's someone I know who's extremely advanced in Krishna consciousness and writes books and does a few copies and gives it out to a few people. And I'll show you the book. Incredible. Incredible. But the goal is just so important because you base your life on the goal. One time I was giving a teacher training. I was speaking at a teacher training. And then a friend of mine who was a Babaji and a Sanskrit scholar in Vrindavan somehow was also invited. So I made sure that the students greeted him nicely. And he was very educated, very learned, and he gave a nice analogy. He said, what is a GPS? And we know what a GPS, but he put it in a nice way. He said it's Guru Parampara system. So what is a normal GPS? It's all based on the goal. If you don't have the goal, it doesn't matter what else you do. So that's the Guru Parampara system. It's a lineage of people who are fixed on the goal and can put everything in perspective of that goal. And therefore, Prabhupada credited him going to the West on reading the verse from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary in the Bhagavad Gita on the verse Vivasayat Mika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana Bahushaka Yanantascha. Bahu Shaka. Shaka means branches. Bahu, many branches. Great souls are not many branched. Vivasayat Mika. Their Atma, their soul. Vivasayat Mika. Ekeha. There's one thing. Determination to become Krishna conscious. Ekeha Kurunandana. They're focused. And Prabhupada said, when he read the purport of that verse, and it said that one should take the order of the spiritual master as his life and soul, because that's connected to the goal. That's your means to the goal. So therefore, Prabhupada took the mission of his guru. So important to be focused on the goal. And that's what's auspicious. You know, recently, I've been meditating on this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, Turorapi Sahishnana, Amanina, Madanena, Kirtaniya Siddhahari. And just saying it over and over again in my mind, even before I chant for some time, very, very slowly, trying to stain my consciousness with the right conceptions, to make that my lens. When Raghunath Das Goswami, who is the Prayojana Acharya, the Acharya, the teacher for the goal of life, which is Priti or Prema Bhakti, and he finally got to see Lord Chaitanya and ask a question. You know, what is the goal of life and how do you attain it? And of course, it's this love of Radha and Krishna, but what was the practice? He said it's four things, Lord Chaitanya said. Humility, tolerance, respect, and chanting the holy name constantly. That's that verse. He actually gave him that verse of the Shikshastakam at that time, which he wrote. So that has to be our lens, because these are expressions of the soul. To experience love, which comes in the form of mercy, you have to be humble. If you're proud or entitled, you never feel love, even when you're getting it. So mercy is felt when you feel I don't deserve something, then you feel love from the person who has given it to you. So I was reflecting on this verse, how in all our dealings in life, this has to be our lens. And I was reflecting, if I can keep my consciousness on this verse, then I'll be very tolerant, which will be a reflection of the soul, which is a reflection of the humility that will allow me to feel mercy. I feel very humble. And I was reflecting on all my exchanges and all my activities throughout the day. And really what a demand that will be for the material consciousness to actually approach each activity with a tolerance or a humility, or devoid of false prestige. And I was even analyzing the little activities and just seeing how colored they are with material consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya is now just asking about everything, and Lord Chaitanya's answer is, what's ever important, whatever we should chant, whatever we should do, whatever wealth we have, is the goal. If you don't have the right goal and you don't focus it on your consciousness, you don't really have anything. So here's one of the questions. Śreyo-madhye, among the śreya, that which is beneficial, there's prayas and shreyas. Praya is immediate benefit, shreyas is ultimate benefit. So śreyo-madhye, among beneficial activities, kona, śreya, which is beneficial. Jīvera, of the living entity, haya is the essence of auspiciousness, is kṛṣṇa-bhakta-saṅga. It's the association of the Krishna-bhakta. The person who exemplifies the goal, the person who gives the goal, the person who can inspire you to achieve it. or to set it as your own North Star. And vinā, without that, śreyaḥ, nāhi are. There is no other beneficial activity. Because to actually be inspired for a goal and a practice and to change your life and achieve real auspiciousness, which is love in our heart and devotional service, there's no other way to do it but Krishna-bhakta-saṅga. There's no other way to do it. That should be our prayer. I just spoke to Śrī Radhe. I'm coming back, and I think I'm going to do a program. I'll come back on March 8th. I'll do a program on March 11th at her house. Be nice. And then when I come back from Colombia on April 2nd, on that day, April 2nd, on that day, April 2nd, we'll have a nice program. And that program, I want to make a little bit of a bigger program. That's on a Sunday. The first program will be on a Saturday afternoon, evening or something. But Jai Jagannath now lives next to me. So I want to do it with Jai Jagannath. And Śrī Gandharvika said that even Śrī Prahlād, so maybe we can have like a really, really powerful program. For what purpose? Kṛṣṇa-bhakta-saṅga. Kanhara smarana jiva karibe anukshana Krishna nama guna lila pradhan smaran. Caitanya Mahāprabhu, what should all living entities constantly remember? Rāmānanda Rāya replied, the chief object of remembrance are always the Lord's holy name, qualities, and pastimes, the Krishna Nam Guna Lila. Krishna Nam Guna Lila. That's the most, that's the chief remembrance. Because that's how you revive that self-realization. Self-realization is to understand yourself. Because unless you know what you're made of and what you're made for, you never can tell what to do. And if you act against your nature, you will suffer. So our whole problem is ishadu petasya. We've turned away from God. So if you want to solve a problem, you have to reverse the cause of the problem. Like if you're sick because there's poor hygiene, then you make good hygiene. So the problem is we've turned away from God. The solution is to turn towards God. That's what we should be remembering. We somehow have to come to this platform. I know it sounds difficult. And even in the Bhagavatam, when it gives this tasmad, therefore we should chant here, remember, always. Well, how is that possible? And how is it possible? Shushushro Shadadhanasya Vasudeva Katash Ruchi Satmahat Sevana Vipra Satmahat Sevana Vipra Punyate Mahat Seva. How is it possible? Mahat Seva. Again, it comes to the association of devotees. Punya Shravana. And that's the tirtha. Tirtha comes from tarati, that which delivers you from this world. The holy name is a tirtha. The devotees are a tirtha. And we go to the place because there are devotees who are chanting the holy name. Kanhara, of whom smarana, remembering, jiva, koribe, should the living entity, smarana, remember, anukshana, of whom, remembering, should the living entities do constantly. Krishna nam guna lila, pradhan smaran. That's the first thing to remember. Because when you remember God, you remember yourself, because who we are is a relationship with God. When you see the sun, you see yourself. When you see God, you understand yourself. So God realization is self-realization. And without God realization, there's no self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:26 states, Tasmat Sarvatma, this is exactly the verse I was thinking of. Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan Hari Sarvatra Sarvada Shrotavyas Kirtitavyascha Smartavyo Bhagavan Nirnam. Sukadeva Goswami concludes, the business of the living entity is to always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every circumstance. The Lord should be heard about, glorified, and remembered by all living entities. This was the conclusion. This is the conclusion. Śreyo-madhye jīvera kartavya kon dhyan Radha Krishna padambuja dhyan pradhan. Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu further inquired, out of many types of meditation, what is required for all living entities? Srila Rāmānanda Rāya replied, the chief duty of every living entity is to meditate upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. That's why our chief duty is chanting the holy name. Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatir, Anyata. Someone's got, I can see, okay, if there's no noise, I won't expose them. Okay. Śreyo-madhye, out of all types of meditation. Jīvera, kartavya kon dhyan. What is the duty? Radha Krishna padambuja, on the lotus feet. You meditate, that's the chief. The lotus feet means to serve. We meditate on serving. Radha and Krishna. Purport 1-2-14. Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan satvatam pati shrotavya kirtitavyascha jaya puja chanichida. Sukadeva Sutta Goswami replied to the sages headed by Shonaka, everyone should very attentively listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should glorify his activities and meditate upon him regularly. This was the verse that comes before Shushusho Shadatanasya. Because you may think it's an impossibility. How to always change, it's kṛṣṇa-bhakta-saṅga, mahatseva vipra, serving the devotees, serving the great devotees. Sarvatyag, jīvera kartavya kahan vas, vrajo bhumi vrindavan yahan lila ras. Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu asks, where should the living entities live, abandoning all other places? Rāmānanda Rāya replied, he should live in the holy place known as Vrindavan or Vrajabhumi, where the Lord performed the rasa dance. Sarvatya, giving up everything. Jīvera, kahan, where? Vas, he should live. Vrajabhumi Vrindavan, yahan, there, where he's done the lila ras, where Krishna's pastimes have happened. Therefore, wherever we live, we should make Vrindavan. In a cultured house, now somehow or other people's standard of living is going down. When I grew up, my parents weren't rich. I remember my father had a small business. He'd give my mother $200 a week. But at that time, the top baseball player, the top salary for a baseball player was $40,000 a year. And that was considered good. But my parents were able to buy a house with 50 to 100 feet of land and a one-bedroom apartment to rent. Of course, it was only $36,000. I remember all these things. It was $36,000. Standard of living was different then. Yeah. But the thing is, people would have a room for God, and that would become Vrindavan. Vrindavan means exclusively for the worship of Radha and Krishna. That's what Vrindavan is, exclusively for the worship of Radha and Krishna. The difference between Vrindavan and a temple in the West. Jayapataka Swami once gave the analogy. He said, like the Netherlands, it's below the sea level, so it's naturally irrigated. If you live on a mountain, if you bring the water up, it's the same as the land. But there's effort, and if you stop bringing the water up, it's not the same. So the nature of Vrindavan, it's not dependent on your effort for there to be a spiritual atmosphere. But if you make the effort, then your place becomes Vrindavan. According to Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 1047-61. Asam aho charana renu jasham maham syam vrindavane kimapi gulma latau shadinam yajastya jam swajanam arya patam chahitva Bejur Mukunda Paravim Shrutibir Vimrijam. Uddhava said, let me become one of Vrindavan's herbs and plants that are trampled by the gopis, who gave up all connection with family and friends and decided to worship the lotus feet of Mukunda. Those lotus feet are sought by all great saintly persons, expert in the study of Vedic literature. Yeah, Vrindavan, Govardhan. Very special places. Śreyo-madhye, of all, Śreyo-madhye, Dhyan-madhye, of all, Śreyo-madhye, of all, jīvera, kona, of living entities, Shreshta Shravana, Śreyo-madhye, Shreshta Shravana, Shreshta is the best. Of all hearing, which is the best? Radha, Krishna, Prem, Kali, Karana, Rasayan. Śrī Mahaprabhu, Śrī Caitanya asked of all topics people listen to, which is the best for all living entities? Rāmānanda Rāya replied, hearing about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is most pleasing to the ear. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-39, Vikriditam Vrajavadubir itam cha Vishnu Shradhan Vito Nusvinayad Atavarnayedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kaman Hridrogam Ash Papahino Jacharena Dira. He who faithfully hears about the dealings between Lord Krishna and the gopis in the rasa dance, and he who describes these activities attain to the perfectional stage of devotional service and simultaneously lose material lusted desires. The point is faithfully hear. And faithfully hear means to hear with the right understanding. Because if you hear with the right understanding, it has nothing to do with lusty desires. It's the form of selfless love. And when you hear about it, you yourself feel that form of selfless love, which is the highest pleasure. Vishya-vinivartante nirahasrasya dehana raso rajam raso pyasya param drishva navartate. One who has a higher taste, the lower taste go. One who gets a drop of the nectar of devotional service. The symptom of bhava is vikridatir. Not only aloofness from objects, but disinterest in objects. Material objects. It's just a different flavor, a different taste. And other things just disgust one. One's not attracted to them at all. Because when he has a higher taste, then he gives up the lower taste. A liberated person who hears about the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna is not inclined to have lusty desires. If one is not liberated and listens to a relation of the rasa dance, he may remember his own mundane activities and illicit connections with some woman whose name may also be Radha. In the conditioned stage, one should not even try to remember such things. By practicing the regulative principles, one should rise to the platform of spontaneous attraction for Krishna. Then, and only then, should one hear about Radha Krishna-lila. Although these affairs may be very pleasing both to conditioned and liberated souls, the conditioned souls should not try to hear them. The talks between Rāmānanda Rāya and Śrī Caitanya are therefore on the platform of liberation. Okay, somehow for today, I'm going to stop there. Jamuna Jaya, you have any?
Yes, hi, Maharaj. I really loved the point early on in class when you said about the importance of exemplars, that we need to have those people. And it's interesting, we have a tendency to look up to people, but oftentimes in this society, we're looking up to the wrong people so badly. So I was going through my head, as you were saying, the list of the exemplars of each of the 9 practices of bhakti. And it's so important to have, like you said, the right goal, to have the right exemplar of that goal. So I was really appreciating that.
Yeah, and if the sannyas ashram is not renounced, it screws up the whole society, because then the whole society moves for material opulence.
Yeah.
So the sannyas ashram has to set that example, because people always aspire for the top.
Mm.
That's why the power brokers are number 2 in the Vedic society, because they don't want the society to have the ultimate objective of that. Because people naturally go for those things. So it has to be something higher. Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, anybody else have a reflection or like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, I thought it was your definition of hearing with faith was interesting, because normally, when you hear the word faith, you think of something that you believe in, that you trust in, but your definition seemed to be something more like, to hear it with the proper conception, which I would never connect with that word, faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, otherwise, if you don't have the proper conception, you don't have the proper trust in it. You're having trust in something else.
Mm-hmm.
So the faith has to be real faith. Real faith in Radha Krishna-lila means faith in what it really is, not what you project on it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So that makes the connection a little more.
Okay. Great. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here. So good to hear from you.
Okay, yeah, Tota, Haribo.
Haribo.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much. This is Krishna-bhakta, and I was impressed very much by the phrase that we become what we very much appreciate. So our appreciations make ourselves.
Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you. Good, nice to see you. Anybody else?
Thank you for class, Dhanurdhara Swami. It's Min.
Min, Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Good.
thank you so much.
Very good. What is that? I didn't hear you.
Thank you so much for class. I was just realizing how the prayer to our gurus, to our teachers, how we're born in the darkness of ignorance. I was just really feeling that so deeply, because whenever I come to your class, I just feel like what you teach us is like a torchlight of knowledge.
That's very beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few months. That's great.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Good. Nice realization. And anybody else? Say hello.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Sriya Radhika here. Yavat Sundari.
Are you still in? Are you still in Kish?
Yes, Maharaj, I will stay here for a month.
Very good. You stay with your mother. That's very good.
Yes. Thank you very much for the class, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you as always for class.
Hey, Haribo. Good. Good. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Namaste here.
Haribo, Namaste.
Haribo. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Great to hear from you. Anybody else?
Haribo Maharaj, it's Don Cayley.
Hey, Don Cayley. Is that your office or that's your house?
I'm in Florida on vacation.
Oh, okay. Where?
Near West Palm Beach.
Okay. Hey, nice to see you. Great.
I wanted to echo what Jamuna Jaya said about having exemplars.
Yeah.
And I'm currently reading Ayendra's biography, and I feel like it's just changing my life. It's just so powerful to have these examples.
Wow. You know, and that's great. You know, I was one of the main people to work on it. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah, I was the spiritual director of it. I was actually the spiritual authority for the book. I went over the whole manuscript. I fired the initial author. I got the new author. Yeah, I went over the whole thing. It's so excellently written. It's so excellently written because you know, Ayendra was a spontaneous devotee, and you have to be very careful how he's presented because people can misunderstand sometimes. So it was written very, very carefully to highlight his attachment to the holy name and his loyalty to Prabhupada. Anyway, it's written by one of our Sanga members, Kalachandri.
Okay.
He's on the Sanga on things. It's an incredible book. I've gone over it so many times. It's amazing. Great. Okay. Thank you for telling me that, because I want to tell the publisher. The publisher was an amazing guy who funded the whole thing and directed the whole project. It was a tremendous effort to get it right. Akinchana also is one of the main people for the book too. Okay, great. Thanks for telling me that. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Hare
Amala,
Krishna. Thank you for your class.
Okay, great to see you. Thanks for coming on here. Great. Good. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go now. I will.